Welcome back to the Dare to Share Challenge. I am so excited to have you with us. If you're new here and you're wondering what you've stumbled across, this is the Dare to Share Challenge. This is where leaders come and they dare to share their most vulnerable parts of their story, whether that's something that they're navigating in real time right now, something that maybe they just don't talk about very often, but the reason being that they showcase the human behind a perception so that you realize when you're looking up to all of the leaders and the people that inspire you, that really they're not so different from you after all. And that must mean if they can do it, you can do it too. So with that being said, I have an incredible guest joining us today. We have the amazing Kim Groshek. Kim, hello.
Hello, thanks for having me, Claire.
You are most welcome. I am so excited to have you with us. And I always like to ask before we dive in, before we get to know you, anything of any context, why did you come on this challenge? And I know you've kind of got a caveat because you're speaking on the Legend Summit and this is part of kind of what you do. So, what made you say yes? Because you didn't have to do this. So, what enticed you to say, yeah, that sounds like
I
it's
I
going to be
am
stretchy.
I
I'm going
am
to go and
always
do
up
that.
for a challenge. I think our
I love
delay
that.
is a little
I
off,
love
but
that.
I'm always up for a challenge.
Amazing. So, Kim, before we dive into the challenge itself, do you want to just introduce yourself a little bit and tell us a little bit about you?
Sure. Well, I'm Kim. I'm from the Midwest in the United States, and I am the original pause lady. That's what they call me. I actually just got deemed that name the last 2 years. I've been in industry for over 35 years. I've set up empires, $20 billion empires. If they had problems, I would be the go-to gal for 30 years. I had my own company and then I transitioned to retirement. And here I am today, the original pause lady.
Love it. Amazing. I am so excited to hear what you are going to share with us today. So, shall we dive into the challenge?
Yes, please. I'm ready.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Okay. So, we have for you guys watching two big questions that I'm going to be asking Kim. She can take us anywhere that she wants to take us. I always ask the leaders one thing, and that is to stretch their level of vulnerability, to go deeper than they've ever gone before, so that they show how they lead themselves first. Now, with that being said, we do need a sense of direction here. Okay. So you have two levels of vulnerability to choose from today, Kim. We have the stretchy level, which is it's your hero's journey, it's your story, it's your life, it's your trials, your tribulations, the things that you've overcome to get you to where you are now. And they're important and they're powerful stories to tell. Or we have the extreme level. And this is something that you're navigating, you're going through, you're growing through in real time right now. Neither is a get out clause, but we do need a direction. So, Kim, where do you want to take us today with that level?
Oh, yeah, those are a good question because I could talk about both. I think right now I'm just going to talk about right now.
Amazing. So, we're going to go extreme.
Yeah, we're going to go extreme.
Okay. I love an extreme share because these are always the most juicy. Okay. So, question number one is what does being a real and a raw leader mean to you, Kim? And we're not just talking about in business, right? We're talking about the woman, the individual, the human that lives an everyday life behind the scenes. That realness and that rawness, how does that transpire in your life?
Yeah, so a real and a raw leader to me, that's really me. So I walk the walk. And we always talk about integrity, but and I don't push that at people. What I do is I try to look at myself and say, what did I say that I was going to do that I actually did or didn't do? And then if I didn't do it, I need to come up and explain and share what I didn't do, fess up, right? So that's something that I live in all the time. I'm always watching myself because I believe, well, I'm a perfectionist, so I'm always looking at myself and saying, you're out of integrity, Kim. or you said something that impacted a person and they walked away and I could feel the energy shift, right? It was a negative energy shift and I didn't mean it. So then I would have to go back and kind of, you know, re-talk about what I was trying to get across, and it was a lot harder to do. Many times when I'm in those situations, I'm not listening, or I'm not taking a moment to pause, right, and actually listen to hear. And that is so important to me, as I'm learning so much right now about when I'm actually always on and speaking too much, and when I'm actually not listening to hear. And it's a craft that I've learned throughout 35, my career and my life. And many times, like my husband, I've been married for 39 years. I have a very successful daughter, and during our, the lifetime of raising her, she'd always be very frank and candid to me about, Mom, that's not what I said, or you aren't listening to me. She would be it actually was something that she taught me through her articulating when I wasn't listening. Because many times I think people are afraid to actually tell you the truth about what they're receiving, and they just walk away offended, or don't feel they can be confident enough to tell the other person that that they received it incorrectly, or it didn't come across very well. And that to me is really, really important, is being able to, number one, live in integrity, which I'm working on every day, every single moment of every single day. And then listening to hear. And then the third thing, being raw, right, and authentic. That's the biggest thing. And those words are so vague, but it really is stepping through what I'm doing. So consistency. And, in everything that I'm doing today with this whole new entrepreneur world I've been living in for the last year, I've learned that, I can do things messy as long as I'm being very consistent about it. And then I can hear people, like when I'm listening to hear people that are maybe on my stages that I host, or the platforms that I offer, like my masterminds and those kind of things. And they're saying to me, well, I can't stay in your space because it's too messy. I'm saying, oh, I better start living a little bit more clearer, because when you move from strategy, it's messy. You can live in messy for a while. And that's one of the reasons why people used to bring me into companies, because they'd be living 5 years of mess because they couldn't get out of the spin of creativity. And they'd bring me in to pull that creativity together and say, okay, now it's time to start getting some structure and get things clearer, and then bring your teams along so you can start implementing.
I love how you said that your daughter was basically like a mirror for you, and she's the one who kind of was able to bring that out. That's really powerful.
Yeah, I think
So
too, I
beautiful.
think sometimes we aren't really listening to our kids. They're brilliant. They're brilliant minds. In fact, when she was only, I remember when she was only like 1.5, and she was still learning how to speak and get her words out. I mean, she was speaking, but it wasn't always clear. And we were up north on a vacation, and she wanted to go outside in the sand right out by the steps. And at the time, she couldn't really explain what she wanted. And so what she did was she went and picked up my tennis shoes and brought them over to me and say, put on your shoes. So, that was just basically saying, I want to do this. They're very, very smart. I think we're very smart, and I think we
I
get
love that.
dumbed down as we go on in our lives. We're kind of almost trained to, almost brainwashed, if you want to call it that, to actually be dumbed down for a while. And then we actually have to grow out of that brainwashing to become more awake again, or
So
aware
true.
as we get older.
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, that's a big part of what this movement and this whole challenge is about. It's about removing all of the layers of the crap that we've taken on as our own, and saying, look, this is the human. This is the real behind everything that you might think you see. I love this, Kim. So are you ready to dive into the big question?
Yes.
Okay. So for you guys watching, just so you know, I never know what any of the speakers are going to share. I don't give them any guidance. As I said earlier, the only thing that I ask is that they stretch their own level of vulnerability. So with that being said, we know that Kim is going extreme. So Kim, what are you willing to dare to share with us all today?
Yeah. So, one of the things that I have been uncovering is really taking that sh- um, armor off that I learned for 35 years. And I use my mind so much. And so I'm reconnecting with my higher self. That's one of the things that I have been able to talk about more. Like I've always done it. I always, when people ask me, how did you do what you've done your entire life? You've done some amazing things, things I've never even thought about doing. And I always tell them I listen to the whispers in my ear, which is true. And I listen to my gut. However, that is really my higher self guiding me along. And I've learned that if I'm not never throughout my career, that if I never listened to my gut, I would actually end up going down the wrong path. And I learned quickly to always listen to my gut and my the whispers in my ear. And even when people speak to me, I always take time to listen and really hear what the message is for me, because everything is always at the right time coming at a person. And if you aren't listening, you actually lose that wonderful gift. And so I'm actually going through the process of discovering that connection. It's been a year. People are showing up for me to do clearing, to talk to my guardian angels and all this stuff that maybe some people think is strange or unusual or whatever they call that. But me, I'm just listening and trusting and being guided, because I believe that we are right now, we are moving to, a new dimension, if you want to call it that. I can't really say it in any other way. We're shifting, the earth is shifting, the energy is shifting. And if we don't wake up, if we don't wake up, if I'm not waking up, I'm not connected to my higher self, I'm going to continue in this spiral of, this box. And so that's something that I don't talk about, and now I am.
Of this. Kim, I have a question. I don't normally ask too many questions on this challenge, but I do have a burning question, so I'm gonna ask it. You've been obviously you said you've had a very fulfilled career, and you've only kind of more recently gone into the entrepreneurial role. With your previous
Mhm.
career, with the talk of, spirituality in essence is what we're talking about here, right? Like being connected to oneself and one's higher self and something greater than ourselves, which whatever you want to call that. But was that something that you felt unable to talk about, uncomfortable to talk about? What was the background of that? I'm really intrigued.
Yeah, so my entire life I've been on a journey, if you want to call it a spiritual journey. I was raised in a parochial school and was very strict, where we learned a lot of the verses, and I was very educated. And then I wanted to explore more, because they encouraged us. They'd actually bring in the other leaders and teach us the different types of religions and spirituality and whatever they were teaching. So I went on to college, and I learned more. I took Buddhism and all kinds of theoretical classes, and then I practiced it. I'm actually a 500 RYT yoga practitioner, plus I also teach that. I've meditated since 2007. I've been going on that journey. I've been on this journey, and it's been a obtuse, right? Very unique journey, then different than what my family, my parents have taught me. However, I never chastise anyone's beliefs. Everyone has their own journey. Everyone has their own grounding in what their higher self or God or name of that higher person is for themselves. So I never want to, make there's no wrong way, right? It's because we're humans, we're making up the word. We're making up the words.
Yes.
But I have been on a journey, and it has been in the industry. You cannot speak about that very much, right? Or in business, you cannot, especially in the Fortune 100 companies that I was in. So I was taught a lot to put the armor on and not show emotions and not talk about it. Even it got worse and worse and worse as the years went on, where you couldn't even put a Christmas tree up, for instance, or kind of different rules around different things. I couldn't say certain things. And so when I got out in the industry, then it was like I still had the armor on, and it took me I took 2 years where I actually taught at a yoga studio just to kind of transition from almost, if you're going to call it retirement. I wasn't retired, but I was retired. Like I was done with that, going to my new destination. And so I taught at the yoga studio, and it was a wonderful transformation for me because I got back to myself. I was able to, when you teach, you actually are doing yoga too. And that then moved me into just waking up, getting the calls from like Cornell asking if I'd like to be on their TEDx stage, and and then getting practice around that and speaking on over 100 stages this year, and then now doing a lot of keynotes. So, I mean, it's just the transformation around transforming others. And I'm actually now teaching others to, whatever I was brought into companies to do. Now I bring just a small handful of executives into my mastermind, and I teach them what I know so they can teach their leaders. So it is all about me teaching them how to get reconnected with their soul, with their consciousness, and waking up so that they can actually be empowered to make the changes that they want to make in the world as well.
How you're like the bridge between the worlds, and you're bringing the corporate along as well, which I think is so needed and so powerful. I love this. I think it's a really, really powerful dare to share, because that is something that it is very untalked about. It is very taboo in those big companies, in corporate America, in corporate England. It really is. And so I really, really condone you for sharing that and for waving the flag and now changing that paradigm with the work that you're doing. Kim, this is amazing. Can you please share with everyone how they can come and get into this incredible world of yours?
Yeah, so they can go check me out on my website. I have a lot of free resources to help them get connected just without me. I've got books. I have 44 books out there right now, still writing a lot of books. So it's kimgroshek.com. You can find me on LinkedIn, and you can send me a message, tell me that you saw me here. And I have group meetings, networking meetings, where you can actually come and actually meet me on a virtual stage too. Just more of a networking. It's not a stage. But it's really just so that you can reach out and share who you are and what you got out of this talk today.
Amazing. Kim, thank you so much for braving the stage and for daring to share with us all today. And for you guys watching, thank you for joining us. Please do drop in the comments how this resonated with you, how it landed with you, and your takeaways from these challenges. Because remember, it's not about us. It's not about the shares per se. It's about what you do with what you're hearing. Make sure that you're listening, like Kim said. So this has been amazing. I can't wait to see you all soon in the next Dare to Share. And Kim, I will be seeing you in the speaker chat.
See you then.
Bye for now.